Yeah, the only thing I'd like to have a look at is
I'm just testing my audio. Can you guys hear me? Thank you.
Yes.
Come back to your seats. You don't need to sit in groups to the left and right anymore. So welcome back. So we're going to move on with our theme of looking how services, advanced services, can help with some of those macro challenges which are facing mankind. This morning, we were very much focused upon the aging society and how services can help in healthcare. This afternoon, we're going to move on. We're going to look at food and food production and then onto climate change and net zero. So our first presentation is going to focus very much again at some of the challenges in the space, and then our subsequent presentations will look at how services can respond to those challenges. I'm delighted to invite our first keynote, and it's Sonal Chowdhury from the Sheffield School of Management. I will just check. Sonal, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Thank you.
So welcome. Thanks for making time to join us. If you'd like to take it away. We will take a few questions towards the end of your talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me at the conference. So today I'll be talking about a vision, what it means to move towards a 21st century sustainable food system, X.2, and what are the challenges and opportunities that we can leverage on. I have borrowed this industry X.0 term coined by Accenture, and I've included here in terms of food system X.0. So next slide, please. Now, before we move on, I would like us to break the topic down into what we mean by 21st century sustainable or sustainability food system X.0. Next slide, please. So let's start with the food system X.2. We know that our food system is complex. It has multiple actors from producing of the food to delivering the food. And they have multiple objectives that they need to fulfill when it comes to sustainability, for example. Moreover, these objectives are not static. It's dynamic and it's evolving. So what I mean here is that a supplier could have an objective of making sure that it is compliant with the buyer selection criteria. And let's say that includes certain sizes or the shapes or the weight of the produce. And at that moment, that criteria or the focus is fine, but it can change over the years. Yeah, it may include a product to be grown in a certain way. That includes maybe different environmental sustainability criteria. So the need of the consumers are evolving, and the food system actors would need to respond to those forces of change. Now, forces for change I will cover in a minute. There are several of them. And then I would also like to touch upon the role of technology, especially the role of technology in the food sector. Food sector is not well understood, and it is generally treated as a threat to jobs. Or there is an ideology that the tech or the industry 4.0 are here to replace laborers. So I borrowed this term X.0, industry X.0, which is more about finding a right balance between advanced technologies and human capabilities. Some would call this as industry 3.5, but I guess whatever you call it, the motive of getting a right balance is more about helping people to do their job more effectively, more efficiently, and perhaps even upskilling them and help them be ready for 21st century food production system that is sustainable. Next slide, please. Now, coming to what we mean by sustainability, we all know it is contextual and it could mean different things to different people and different organizations. So I'm not here to set the agenda of what we all should be looking into sustainability. Again, here there are multiple actors with multiple objectives. So we are here to more talk about those differences and how we could maybe look at it as a kind of opportunity. So for instance, objective of farmers would primarily be to sustain their livelihood, be climate resilient, which could open again opportunities for other service providers to provide services for precision agriculture. And it is more demanding, even more demanding in developing countries where there are where most of our food are produced from small scale farming. So how to make this service available to them, to the small scale farmers? There are a few companies working on it towards democratizing precision agriculture, but there is a lot that needs to be done. Then the objective could be to reduce food loss and the food waste across the chain. There could be multiple services associated with this objective, multiple services associated with cold chain as well. And we will cover that in a bit. Now, objectives of the consumers could be eating nutritious food. What services are available for tracing and tracking the quality and the nutrition of the food? Net zero could be another one, a new one, actually, where now many of the retail sector and manufacturers would be focusing on. And again, the sustainability focus is evolving. It's dynamic. And even here, we need to find a right balance between food production and food loss and waste. We are producing food, but we are wasting around 1/3 of the food that we are producing. A world where we have no obesity or malnutrition. We know we can work on these issues provided we have a willingness to change and we have right data. But we also know that there are data gaps and we need to generate more to make informed decisions. Here again, the issues such as data trust among different stakeholders becomes very important. I am hoping some services could be to provide some of the data that we need across the food system and make it ready for 21st century. Yeah, so that was about the sustainability. And then the next slide, please. It is on 21st century. So then comes 21st century. What I mean here by a 21st century, especially for me, it means innovation. We need to have innovation in our research approaches, science and technologies that could support our vision towards a 21st century. Sustainable 21st century. We need to have policies that drive positive changes towards sustainability. We need to have innovative partnerships, innovative public-private partnerships as well to drive the change, some new business models, and where perhaps we could innovate and move some of the product-based business models to service-based business models. And this is why we are here for. And we need to do this. We need to innovate in a certain, within certain forces for change that exist. We need to appreciate that there are certain forces that we cannot change, but we need to function within them. So we might not be able to change or control them, but we can find innovative ways to function sustainably along the forces for change. So the next slide, please. So it's good to be aware of what are the mega trends within which we need to function. And this is one of our research consultancy work, which we did for business in the community back in 2015 or 16, but it is still relevant today. We identified 6 forces for change, which could be actually relevant for any of the businesses, not just food sector. We identified demographic change, which means that there are increasing older populations, especially in the developed countries, increasing younger and the middle class population in the emerging economies. We need to identify some opportunities to function in and around these demographic change. We know that we will be resource constrained, so there is a resource access change that we need to function within. As we are increasing population and the demand are increasing, we have finite resource streams. So we need to think of a new way of functioning, which is why now we hear more about circular economy business models, servitization, area sharing economy. So these are the new innovative business models that we can think of. And then climate change, it's not a hidden fact. There are changing weather patterns, extreme events, disruptions. We need to function under these. Values change, and what we mean here by values change is they are mostly related to the consumers and the demand of the consumers, especially millennials. Political change. Now, I don't need to say much on this. We are all facing the impact of EU exit. Now, I haven't said positive or negative impact, so don't quote me on that. These are just some of the forces for change under which we need to operate. Technology changes, and there are different emerging technologies that are disrupting the market, and we can talk about this in 2 minutes time on my other slides. Then we have other forces for change. Sustainability. Now, we have covered sustainability under climate change, resource constraint, and environmental, especially from the environmental perspectives, and value change under social angle. But I feel we perhaps can expand on this, especially beyond climate change, resource constraint, and value change when we are focusing on the food sector. Next slide, please. So, because especially it becomes when it comes to food security, we need to be aware of more indicators related to social sustainability, whether it is related to the farmer's livelihood or the consumer's nutritional requirement. So, in context of food security, we have changing population, increasing population, demanding more food. We have limited, finite land to grow the food, and we are wasting 1/3 of the food. There are changing consumer preferences in terms of nutrition, nutritionally dense food, safe, organic, healthy food products are needed. We have already seen the importance of nutrition and safe and healthy food during ongoing pandemic. And we are also seeing the impact of EU exit on our food supply chains in the UK, labor shortages, food safety certifications, checks across the border, etc. So any businesses keeping pace with these changes would definitely survive well. Technology and the data science can definitely help us understand and perhaps overcome some of these challenges. And we are going to see some of the examples from my ongoing projects of how we can utilize tech and data science for answering some of the 21st century food system challenges. So next slide, please. So I'm currently principal investigator or the lead on STFC Food Network Phase 2, where we are bringing people from industry, from academia, from multidisciplinary academia, from policy to space science, physics, to co-design innovative projects to tackle some of the challenges of the food system. Now, what I mean by STFC here is one of the UKRIs, is a Science and Technologies Facility Councils, which would mostly work with the space scientists and the physics scientists. So we and they have capabilities of data science, technologies, emerging technologies, and different sort of scientific facilities in and around the UK. So we are using those facilities and the capabilities of STFC and trying to see what are the challenges in the production area, what are the challenges in the manufacturing and the supply chain, what are the challenges in the nutrition and the consumer behavior. And then trying to see, how we could tackle some of those challenges using the capabilities of technologies and the data science and the scientific facilities. Okay, so we do run quite a lot of sandpits for co-designing the projects, and we have funded around 75 plus projects since 2017. We would be funding 20 to 30 more, so I would definitely invite you to be part of this network, and hopefully in the next round we can see some of you there co-designing the projects with us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we are a team of multiple researchers, as well as it's made of primarily academia, but then we have steering committee members from policy and from the industry, and we have loads of champions helping us to do this project, to deliver this project very efficiently. Okay, next slide. Now coming to innovations for the food system, X.0 and servitization. Now, as I've told you before, there are different sort of applications of emerging technologies that we could utilize in all the three different areas: production, supply chain, and consumer nutrition. So I will start with the production first. Next slide, please. So sustainable food production as a service, what we could do here, and what some of my projects has actually delivered this, and perhaps we could talk more in terms of how we could move towards a collaborative opportunities for delivering a service for sustainable food production. So next slide, please. So as I've told you before, can you press next button as well? Okay, yeah, that's fine. So as I've told you before, we work on the three different aspects of the food system: production, supply chain, and consumer behavior. So one of the projects we did in India, which is one of the emerging economies and has a lot of small scale farmings. And we got an opportunity through this STFC Food Network to look into, especially in the phase 1, to look into what are the different sort of challenges from the production level to the end consumer level, and how can actually data science and the technology help us to overcome some of the challenges. Initial project was around 8 to 10K, and then we applied for the larger grant funding, which was around £840,000. And it's called Project Transition, where we are looking into transforming cold food chain in India through space science and technology. And you will be hearing a little bit more on that. Okay, next slide, please. So in this particular project, we have worked with the grassroots farmers and NGOs, along with the other retailers, Amazon India, and the other online retailers and their supply chain, and understood the different sort of challenges from different stakeholders. So as I told you, there are multiple objectives and there are multiple stakeholders. So we need to align our maybe services that we could provide to farmers or to the retailers or to the aggregators in a way so that it is beneficial for them as well as for the service provider. Okay, next slide, please. So in this project transition, we are looking into different transition pathways. So especially into, if you look into work package 2A, which is digital agriculture, B is more about food loss and the reduction, and C is more about the new business models and the policy changes needed. So in terms of digital agriculture, we were mostly focusing how to democratize precision agriculture. We know that we have some data from the satellites and and there are sensor data on the ground. So, but the thing is that there is a very opportunity to actually take these data together and also analyze that with the market data. And who's going to do that? Okay, so then comes another kind of opportunity of different people, the data science company providing some services to the farmers as well as to the retailers. So mixing the market data along with the data from the satellites and from the sensors on the ground. This is what we are doing in collaboration with IBM Research in this particular project. And there is a huge opportunity, especially for farmers in small scale working on the small scale farming, where the supply chain is not very organized. It is disaggregated. So normally they would go to the market yard and there would be auction taking place without even an understanding of what sort of price they would get for their produce. So it's a very kind of how do you say, it's a very challenging task for farmers to actually predict their prices. So we are working with the different sort of tech scientists as well as organizations who could help us build the app for the farmers to provide them the service of digitizing their supply chain. Okay, next slide, please. And this is one of the products that we have jointly developed in collaboration with Center for Sustainable Agriculture, which is an NGO which are working with more than 50,000 organic farmers and more than 100,000 conventional farmers. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. And I would take this as an opportunity to invite you all. We are running a hackathon on COP26, and this is to design the analytic platforms for supporting sustainable livelihood and the climate resilience small scale farming on the week starting 1st of November. So if you're interested and if you are working on data science or like, Python or any sort of programming, and you feel that, if given a data, you would be able to maybe look into developing the app or designing the algorithm, then please feel free to apply for this. Okay, next slide, please. Coming to another challenge, which is food loss and food waste reduction. As a service, we all know that there's a lot of waste, 1/3 of the waste. However, there are different kinds of waste in developing countries and the emerging economies. So the next slide, please.
So no, I'm going to have to ask you to draw to a bit of a conclusion. We've just got a few minutes left, if that's okay.
All right. Okay. I thought that it was 30 minutes talk. All right. Sorry about that. So maybe we could maybe shift to, I think it was slide number 40. Mm-hmm. Next. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Next slide, please. All right. So if you could just keep scrolling down, there is a slide with yeah. Next slide. Next. Okay. Yeah, that's it. The previous one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so unfortunately, I was not able to cover all the parts because maybe I got the timing wrong. I thought that it was a 30 minutes presentation. However, what I would have actually covered, I would have shown you a different sort of case studies on servitization, and I would have actually invited you for to listen to the different speakers who would be covering some of those case studies in detail. We know that we have to change, we have to innovate, working on some old business models that we are working on 19th and 20th century is no longer an option. Time is ticking, so I would invite you to hear talks from other speakers in this session and get inspired to drive positive change for sustainable food system X.0, which is 21st century ready. Okay, yeah. And these are the opportunities where you can engage more with the STFC Food Network. And there are lots of funding opportunities as well. Okay.
Sonia, thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon. Thank you. I'm mindful of the time, and so rather than opening up the question to the floor, I just got one quick question myself. And that's when you think about the challenges to sustainable food production from a UK perspective, what are the top 3 challenges which really spring to mind? You say, these are the 3 things which we really need to address.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think the top 3 challenges would be, of course, especially looking into the UK to make it self-sufficient. So we know that domestic production is not up to the as standard as we would want to be. So to make it self-sufficient, we would need to maybe innovate in terms of domestic production. We would also need to understand how we trade and where we trade. So that would be the first one to make it self-sufficient. The second one would be to look into a right balance between technologies and the labor. We are already facing labor challenges at the moment, labor shortages challenges. So how we could actually leverage some of the technologies and the data science capabilities that we have in the UK. UK is in forefront leading, how we could utilize them together to overcome some of these challenges of the food supply. And the third one is about how do we encourage consumers to eat nutritionally dense food, and if we do encourage them, how do we encourage farmers to produce them?
Thank you. And again, thank you very much for making time for the presentation this afternoon. We're going to move on though, with those thoughts in mind about the sustainability, technology, innovation, and healthy eating. And perhaps just focus at the main one of the central one of those, this idea about how new technology, the technology innovators' response to this, because perhaps of those 3 challenges, is an area where servitization can help in particular. So I'm going to call upon our next presenter, who's Dowie Crowell. Dowie, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you.
So please, take it away. Tell us what your thoughts about how we can respond to some of these challenges which we're facing in terms of food supply, food security.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Dowie Crowell. I know it's a bit difficult to pronounce if you're from the UK. Yeah, I'm coming to you from South Africa. The company is called Energy Partners, which we started 12 years ago, specifically to provide sustainable energy to Africa. And when we talk about energy, we had in mind electricity, heating, but also cooling, which is something that was pretty new, electricity and steam supply. In terms of servitization, has been done for quite some time. But then we started with the refrigeration, and this is what I'll talk about today. And specifically, most of our work is food refrigeration, ensuring food safety and reduce of losses. Let me just see if my clicker works. Oh yeah, there we go. So really our focus is sustainable outsourced refrigeration solutions for our customers. And I've just put some of the sustainability goals up there. And I've heard that I've only got 20 minutes. I'll go fast through the slides. When we started this business, we realized we needed to provide, full integration of services, right from identifying and developing projects with our customers through the design phase, so that we can make sure that there's really top class engineering done, then build these facilities ourselves. So we've got an in-house construction capability, and that eliminates some of the risk, in terms of outsourcing refrigeration systems. And then obviously to own, operate and maintain these systems for the next 15 to 20 years for our customers. I mean, that's really something that we had to develop from scratch. And really through this integration process, the real focus is maximizing customer profitability. Our business is more than refrigeration. Energy Partners have got also a steam business, as I said, Energy Partners Power, who does solar, wind, and storage solutions for our customers. We have what we call energy intelligence, which is where all our data are managed and converted into information and provided to ourselves and to our customers, and then a really strong design team in our business. About 2 years ago, we were contacted by BASE, a non-profit organization from Switzerland, and they helped us a lot by providing this following little video on what cooling as a service really is. I mean, this is something that helped us to show our customers coming from an independent party. So here is a little video created by BASE, which I think explains cooling as a service in a very, very short and clear manner.
The planet is becoming warmer. Population and economy are growing, while the demand for cooling is rising. Opting for a cooling system, you might consider an inexpensive one, but those come with a hidden price tag. Higher operation costs, high electricity consumption, frequent breakdowns, and the need for repairs. In this sense, modern cooling technology is less expensive because its life cycle cost is lower. Besides, innovative cooling systems provide higher indoor air quality and improved productivity. So how can you access a high-quality cooling system without straining your budget? That's simple. Don't buy one. Just use cooling as a service. You do not invest, and manufacturers remain owners of their equipment. You only pay a monthly fee for every metered unit of cooling. This fee includes maintenance, repair, and running costs like electricity and water. So you just pay for your actual use. It is the provider's interest to install the most efficient technology and to offer optimal operation and maintenance. This approach is called cooling as a service.
So, oh, there we go. So as you could clearly see, I mean, that's really something nice we can show our customers to explain what cooling service means. And I think the important part here is to then realize that when you look at servitization, the focus now shifts from capital cost to life cycle cost, obviously. And in refrigeration systems, energy represents 2/3 of the life cycle cost. And you can see maintenance and CapEx are sharing the balance of these costs. These is averages, obviously, it's not the same every time. There we go. And I think through cooling as a service, what we are able to do is to shift the line of responsibility, and at under normal project conditions, our customer would be responsible for everything to the right of the electricity meter. And through cooling as a service, we are able to shift that line to a situation where we are responsible for everything up to the space that needs to be cooled. And this is really, what the customers like. It's removing some risk for them. And you can clearly see they only now pay for the cooling that they use through a tariff. And basically, we've got a meter on our cooling system, and we measure the amount of cooling units, if you want to call it tons of refrigeration. That's a metric that we can then use to bill our customers. And the tariff itself is designed as follows. So this is typical of a type of tariff. We've got an availability component to the tariff, which is a fixed part, and that basically looks after, you want to call it the capital cost side of the project. We've got a maintenance component to the tariff, and our maintenance are really focused on data-driven predictive maintenance, ensuring maximum availability, because if the plant doesn't operate, we can't invoice our customer. So there's a really nice balance here in terms of the responsibilities. And then certainly longevity is the key. We want this plant to operate for at least 20 years. And if it can, for 25 years, I mean, it just becomes better from the owner perspective, from our perspective. And then the most important part, of course, is the energy tariff, where we charge our customer for the units that are used, and intrinsic in this then becomes the efficiency of that system, because our tariff is a fixed number, and our customer always gets a guaranteed 80% of peak performance throughout the entire life of this project. So the benefits of the customer, is really that we take the risk away. So the customer is free to focus on core business. And I think we've realized over the last 5 years, this is the primary thing that everybody wants. And if you think about things like Uber, I mean, people don't want to own a vehicle. There's a lot of things that comes with owning a vehicle, a lot of responsibilities, having to have a driver's license, paying for fuel, making sure that you don't run empty, while in a situation of where it's a servitized product, there's no risk. You just pay for the consumption of cooling. There's also zero capital cost, and really I think this allows customers to spend their capital on things that are core to their business. The client pays on a tariff basis, so he's got predictable budgets. It's very easy for financial people to budget going forward. What is my next year going to look like? And contractually, the efficiency is guaranteed. We can now build plants which are environmentally responsible. It increased the sustainability. It reduced environmental impact because of the lower electricity consumption. So CapEx is no longer a burden for making sure that the plant is sustainable. And then obviously for our customers, to give them peace of mind, they have the flexibility to always change the ownership model at any point in time over the full period. Some case studies, and I think the next slide is going to be a video of our Dr. Utker project. So we'll just see if that plays. No, I don't see it yet. Oh, there it goes.
Dr. Utker, a producer and importer of frozen foods, recently upgraded its production and storage facility, including a brand new 3-stage ammonia refrigeration system. Thanks to provider Energy Partners Refrigeration's innovative outsourced cooling model, Dr. Utker South Africa could cover its cooling needs delivered by state-of-the-art cooling equipment with high energy efficiency and operating with the natural refrigerant ammonia without having to invest in the technology or worry about the maintenance and operation thereof afterwards.
My role essentially entails looking after large-scale projects, and these include sustainability drives, it includes efficiency optimization, as well as capacity expansion. Dr. Utker is a German company. They've been around for 130 years, and in South Africa, we opened this branch in 2010. So the frozen pizza market in South Africa is growing, and in order for Dr. Utker to meet this growing demand, we basically decided to just expand on our capacity by getting a new facility.
My role is to ensure the quality of our engineering designs. Energy Partners has been in the energy space for 10 years, initially focusing on energy efficiency and energy management. In 2016, Energy Partners developed our contracting capability in the refrigeration so that we could move towards the as-a-service product range.
We first engaged with Dr. Utker during 2018. At that point in time, they were developing a facility for their new production lines, and they were looking at various solutions for the best and most efficient cooling for their facility.
Energy Partners Refrigeration offered Dr. Utker a cooling-as-a-service contract to install, operate, and maintain the refrigeration system at its new facility. Servitization contracts are something they have a great deal of experience in, boasting multiple success stories in Southern Africa.
The model evolved over time into a fully owned Energy Partners plant based on our steam and solar PV models. We needed a way to measure cooling accurately, and once we've developed a cooling meter, we could switch to servitization.
Cooling as a service comes with various benefits. I think the one is that it's a very attractive and efficient capital vehicle for the client to use. It means that they can employ their capital for their core business. And it's also a way to de-risk the business. So by outsourcing and using cooling as a service model, it means that the risk sits with the experts in terms of maintaining it, ensuring that it delivers the best quality of cooling to the client.
So a lot of other companies usually decide to insource their own ammonia plant. So this means that they're also in charge of the maintenance and the servicing and ensuring the safety of everybody on site. So with Dr. Utker, we decided to outsource to Energy Partners. So they are now responsible for all the maintenance, all the monitoring, as well as the caretaking of the ammonia plant.
When considering cooling as a service as a model for outsourced refrigeration, you have to take a couple of things into consideration. So energy efficiency is one of the key drivers, but also the maintainability of the plant. In considering the solution, it was important for us to make the most use of the energy that's available in the system. And accordingly, we also implemented a heat recovery system that supplies the majority of the hot water throughout the facility.
A cooling as a service contract, including full maintenance and operation, was signed for an initial 15-year contract period with yearly extensions thereafter. The fixed payment per unit of cooling includes all operating costs, even the electricity consumed by the system. This means that Dr. Utker will not be paying more for the system operation even if the efficiency of the plant is lower than expected.
The cooling as a service product offered to Dr. Utker is an off-balance sheet product fully owned by Energy Partners Refrigeration. This approach changes the relationship from a contractor to a strategic business partner with Dr. Utker. During this contract, Energy Partners will take full responsibility for the operation of this plant, guaranteeing quality of temperature and efficiency of the plant for the full period.
The reason why this works out for Dr. Utker is because all the engineering expertise can be focused on ensuring continuous operation as opposed to dealing with the ammonia plant room.
In designing the refrigeration plant, we modeled the heat loads and compared ammonia to the synthetic refrigerants available in the market. And based on that, ammonia was 20% more efficient compared to the other synthetic refrigerants. We are estimating that this plant will save Dr. Utker roughly 1,200 tons of CO2 emissions per annum. In maintaining the consistency and quality of cooling to the client, we've taken a data-driven maintenance approach with this plant. What this means is that we've got a 24/7 monitoring capability of this plant, where we monitor all the alarms as well as the levels of the refrigeration being supplied to the client.
Energy Partners' cooling as a service portfolio has been growing exponentially since it was first launched, and this is expected to continue growing over as the model gains worldwide recognition thanks to the work BASE and others are doing to mainstream the model.
We're also really excited about the retail sector, which we think will pick up its head in the next 18 months in South Africa. We currently have cooling as a service plants with 3 of the major retailers in South Africa, and with the concept proven, we think it will accelerate in the near future. Cooling as a service also provides an opportunity for the refrigeration sector to become more environmentally responsible through the use of natural refrigerants.
There we go. Thank you. I think that video from BASE, and I must say thanks to them for helping us to produce that video, really tells the story about why customers are keen to move to servitization in the refrigeration space. And I'm not going to talk too much, but saving 24,000 tons of CO2 emissions over the life cycle of this project is really a big contribution towards sustainability. Another example was an Abo pack house in the northern part of South Africa. One of the things that we can do with servitization of refrigeration is buy existing facilities from our customers, as they've got an existing refrigeration system, upgrade it, and then run it on a cooling as a service basis. And in this scenario, we were able to save our customer from a operational perspective, about 3.7 million rands per year. So it's a significant saving for them. And the cost of upgrading was really not that much. It's more in terms of control systems and data-driven management of the plant itself. Another example that we are actually installing as we talk at the moment is for Clover, one of the biggest dairy producers in South Africa. This is a company that's over 100 years old. They are consolidating some of their manufacturing capability, and this is in Durban in South Africa along the east coast. And this is a fairly big plant, 10 megawatts of cooling supplied by a very large ammonia system. And here, we actually combined our solar solution with the refrigeration solution and what we call solar assisted refrigeration. So we use the solar PV electricity directly to drive some of the electricity requirements of the refrigeration system. And through this, we can really give our customers a much more competitive cooling cost. The life cycle cost driven mostly by energy. If the energy, a portion of that energy can be cheap, we are able to drop our tariff on cooling for our customers. So this is really a project that we'll see next year. What the outcomes will be, it starts to operate by the end of November. We also, like I mentioned in the video on Dr. Utke, we are also involved in the retail sector. It's really an exciting sector in our case, I think, where there's a lot of energy savings opportunity. Typically, retail have to have refrigeration systems. It's almost a garage buy for a retailer to own a refrigeration system because it's back of house. It's not customer facing. And the display cases are really what they're interested in, but the refrigeration plant sitting at the back doesn't get a lot of attention and generally poorly maintained. Wherever I've been across the world, we see the same thing. So there's a huge energy savings opportunity simply because of poor maintenance. And in this scenario, for example, it's a family, Pick n Pay family, which is a franchise business in South Africa. We saved our customer about 37% on energy. This is a facility for chicken processing, just commissioned, operating for about 3 months now at full speed. The really nice thing about this is where we could combine our steam solution with a refrigeration solution, and we use the waste heat from the refrigeration plant to generate hot water to reduce the amount of steam needed on site because they use a lot of hot water in chicken processing. Again, this was a greenfields project, really a nice one to be involved in. And then another interesting project, this is a pork abattoir and processing facility called Linka Meats in Meyerton, close to Johannesburg. This customer had limitations in electricity supply, but they needed to expand their process and they couldn't get more power. So we were able to allow them to increase their production by 100% while only increasing their electricity load by about 70%. So there's a 30% saving that we generated for them on the consumption of energy. And that really, in the long term, involved all three of our utilities. The solar PV, which you can see on the roofs there, the refrigeration plant, as well as a steam supply contract that we have with it. Just a little bit of a view, and the figures on the left on the capital access is thousands of dollars. So how our portfolio grew from 2015, really, and accelerating at the moment. As you can see, in 2022, we'll just on refrigeration have a portfolio of about $30 million. And you know, our end goal is to get to something like $200,000 in 5 years' time. Well, that's not the end goal, that's the goal for 5 years from now. On the refrigeration portfolio, and similar values for our solar and steam portfolios. So really exponential growth that we are seeing now in the uptake of our cooling as a service product. Then in terms of how does the revenue model work, I think I've just looked at this at a very high level. So this is not too much detail, but I think as I described earlier on, you know, we have a tariff, and part of the tariff is the availability fee, and that basically pays for the capex. And we generally charge our customers at an escalating rate, 6 or 8% in South Africa. You know, that is typical what you have in the lease kind of market in South Africa, where people lease properties and so forth. It would be different in different countries. And some of our customers have also opted for 0% escalation. And then, so that there's a small, at 70% getting, so we basically get 70% of this capital from the banks who wants to invest in energy assets. And the balance is obviously our own money that we're investing in these projects. So, you know, at 70% getting, we're making a small return on the capital side of things, on the availability charge. But on top of that, you have the maintenance income, and that generates, let's say, an EBITDA of around 10 to 15% for our maintenance business. And then the main part of this business is really providing our customer with a tariff for consumption of cooling, and we guarantee 80% of peak efficiency generally in our projects. And if we do better over the full period of the contract, which is, as I said, 15 to 20 years, we can obviously make a bit of extra profit. And if we do worse, there's some risk involved for us, and then we have to make decisions to reinvest more capital into that project. So from a combined perspective on IRR, there's good returns possible somewhere in the region of 20 to 25%. But there's obviously some risk if the efficiency of our plants are not managed very well. And I think just a last comment that I had in there is that contracts need to be watertight. So this is something that we as engineers had to learn very quickly, how to draw up contracts that are really watertight in this regard. So what's the benefits to us of offering cooling as a service to our customers? Well, it increases the number of project opportunities because there's now alternative capital avenues. It unlocks long-term maintenance income, and that long-term maintenance income has got a predictable value. So we know for the next 10 years what our maintenance income is going to be with all our contracts, and we can actually build our maintenance business around a known value of income, which is a really big benefit for us. And then it creates long-term relationship building with customers. Our customers are part of, we are not a supplier to them, we're actually part of their team, and we can become part of their future plans. There's fewer competitors, and I think this is really important to realize that there's a financial engineering barrier, which is really difficult for contractors to overcome. And then we generate an income from driving efficiency. You know, it's a really differentiator for us. And then a thing that people don't think about, but it increases our business value because we now have an income that's annuity type income. So if you value Energy Partners, you can now use our business as something that's in the financial sector, not so much in the construction sector, and that drives the value of the business up. Really important thing here, barriers to adoption. I think servitization is fundamentally different from contracting, and it's really difficult for businesses to change themselves from a contracting business to a servitization business. And in my mind, you almost have to have a separate division that's driving servitization, that doesn't report to the normal line in the let's say the old style of doing business. The reason why it's so difficult is not the financial engineering skills in engineering companies generally to do servitization right. There's a lack of shareholders' capital, and that was spoken about earlier as well from people in other places in the world like India. Shareholders need to invest some of their money because the banks won't finance you 100%. And then there's some unwillingness to wait several years for your portfolio to reach maturity to bring some profits into your business. So people want to have their cake and eat it right away, often. I think customer education and fear of being an early adopter is something that we had to deal with. It helped a lot that BASE came on board and really developed a lot of the tools around cooling as a service. And there's now a lot of companies in the world that's doing this. You need to develop the skills to handle data and create modeling and dashboards. These are things that really is the real value of servitization. In my mind, we are moving towards the value of data and information becoming the bigger part of everything.
David, I'm very sorry about this. I'm going to have to just ask you to draw it to a conclusion, if that's okay. We've got one or two questions in the room we'd like to ask you. Yep. Would it be okay just to stop at this point?
I think that was the last slide, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. Really was. Thank you. So, questions, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody want to start with a question from the room?
Hi, Dawi. My understanding.
Oh, sorry. Could you just ask your name and organisation, please?
Oh, sorry. I'm Tahir Rashid from Brandenburg, UK. My understanding from your presentation was, as part of your offering, you also covered the electric running cost of the refrigeration units. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, we actually have a meter on the incomer, and we pay our customer for the electricity we use.
That was going to be my question. How do you manage that from a practical point of view? So the electricity contract is still with the customer, and you basically pay the value of the units used to the customer at specific intervals. Is that right?
Yes, on monthly intervals. As we invoice our customer for the cooling, we also subtract the electricity that we consumed, providing that cooling.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the room?
Hello, Derek Silby of Vosvoco. I had a question about barriers to entry. I was surprised you didn't have one there about waiting for legacy equipment to reach its end of its life before your customer was actually ready to go into this model, unless you actually go and buy your legacy equipment.
Yes, so I think, maybe that is something that's going to become a bigger factor more into the future. I mean, we are now sitting at about 17, 18 projects that we've completed. I think if you go into the retail space where there are thousands and thousands of stores, there's actually enough time to actually take these things on as they reach end of life. But yes, we do buy from our customers if they're willing to sell or buy it at a value of £1 necessary for that sense, existing plants before end of life, and we convert them into more efficient plants if the engineering done and the construction isn't too bad. So yes, sometimes you have to wait. If a customer's just made a very bad decision and installed something and spend a lot of capital on it, it's often not possible to convert at that point.
Okay, we've got time for one last very quick question from the floor. If that's okay, then we'll go to questions online.
Thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Matthias. I'm from Grundfos. My question goes about, many times we talk about digital transformation related to this servitization. Can you allude a little bit to how much of it was in your journey for successful products or successful customer cases? How much was organizational build-up in servitization versus digital build-up in enabling the service journey?
Sure. It's a bit of a difficult question. I think for us, we've always been a data-driven company. And one of the things that happened in the last 5, 6, 7 years is that every piece of equipment that we now install can talk into the cloud, send information into the cloud. So digitalization of what happens on site is really a big part of what we've done, but our business actually started around that. So for us, we built that capability very early on. It was difficult for us to actually build a contracting capability because we initially were purely consultants and trying to convince people to do things better. And we realized that that's simply not possible to do if we don't actually go out there and build these plants and own and operate them. So that the two are really balanced in my view.
Okay, and we've got some online question.
Thanks, Tim. We do have our first online question from Giwa. Giwa, could you please introduce yourself and ask the question?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, Dowie. Very nice presentation. My name is Giwa. I'm from Aston University. My question is basically thinking about the future of the cooling as a service. I understand at the moment you already provide this type of service for industries. I would like to understand from the customer point of view, how you see the future. Do you think this will go into, let's say, users in the household setting? Let me say, imagine an apartment building with several tenants. And if this is if you are able to go into this market, how do you think separating the amenities that you use for your cooling infrastructure, let's say the electricity, the real estate that you would use to install your equipment, how do you separate this cost from the customer's contracted cost in their personal space? This is my question. Thank you.
So, did you get that? So
yeah, I think, that. Sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, I was just summarizing.
Okay,
so how do you see the future?
Yeah, I think he specifically alluded to personal use as well. I think it will take a bit of a different model for this to be moved to a kind of a more personal level. There are companies in Africa that are doing that actually on a much smaller basis. Coolbox is one of them, if I remember correctly, that provides small freezer capabilities for the storage of things like pharmaceutical products. And the model one have to rethink the model, because the energy side of things will become less important in those kind of models, specifically when you're working with business to consumer side of things, and it will have to be more a guarantee of temperature and availability, more than actually the energy efficiency, because you're working with bespoke product. So yeah, but I do think there's a huge opportunity, especially in the third world. And when we talk about food security and waste reduction, to provide something like cooling as a service on a personalized basis, I think there's a huge opportunity that even from small farmers already who needs cooling. I mean, you're talking about one person needing cooling for his product that it produces. And that's something that Coolbox, for example, are looking at.
Okay, thank you. We've got one last question online.
Yes, Tim. Our last question online is from Harry Martin. Harry, could you please introduce yourself and then ask the question?
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks very much again for the opportunity and for the speech. Darwin, I had a question about your funding model. So I should say I work for the UK MOD, Ministry of Defence. You mentioned that 70% of the capital cost in your plants is funded by banks. I wondered if you had managed to exercise any transfer of risk to the banks, and what means they had, if so, what means they had of mitigating that risk, and what part you played in that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, banks are generally very risk averse, and it's very difficult for us. So the customers that we are currently dealing with are looked at the banks very critically. The bank are part of the decision-making team whether a project is fundable or not fundable. So yes, I think, I mean, we've often said that there's a real opportunity for a different type of funder coming into the space than commercial banks. At the moment, we're working with commercial banks, and it's frustrating because they don't like risk, and we had to separate our investment business from our operational business completely because they're really not interested in any operational risk.
Thank you. And again, thank you very much for an insightful presentation. It really was very good. Thank you. So, I'm going to move us on now. I'm going to move us on from South Africa to a place which is perhaps just as difficult to get to. I'm going to move us on to Cambridge. And I'm going to, the next two presentations are by businesses which are members of the Advanced Services Partnership. So Will Edwards, who is going to lead the presentation, I'm sure would like me to invite you to ask particularly difficult questions to him. So, Will, are you online?
Tim, I am, yes. Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you can hear me. And yeah, please do ask difficult questions. Thanks, Tim. I'm also hopefully going to get some help. Yeah, thank you, from the slides. So I'm not going to attempt to move slides on, but I think someone's going to help me to do that. So thank you. I should just set the expectations a little bit from the outset here. And probably what you'll hear from me is us as an organisation figuring out this journey towards servitization. So we certainly haven't arrived yet, but hopefully you'll see some reflections as we're trying to figure this stuff out. And in particular, how we're figuring this out to address some of the customer challenges that we see and some of the mega trends that we see. So next slide, please. Perfect. So I'm not going to labour this too much, but it's probably helpful just to set a little bit of context, other than the fact that we're based in the UK and based in Cambridge. So this will set the context of the slides coming up. So Domino is an industrial coding provider. So we are selling into manufacturers, and we're selling into manufacturers across quite a range of sectors, but predominantly food, beverage, and healthcare. So at a very simple level, think variable data, think best before dates on pretty much anything that you will find in a supermarket or a hardware store. And that's really where we've been involved. We're international, so selling across lots of different countries. And we're doing that both through direct businesses, subsidiaries, but also through a network of distributors. So that's interesting and challenging from a services point of view. Been around 40 years, and as Tim has already said, we've been members of the Aston Advanced Services Group since 2018, and that's really been helpful and continues to be helpful in helping us figure out this journey towards servitization. My role and who I am, well, I'm a member of our exec team. I oversee our sales channels, both direct and indirect, but also I've got some global responsibility for things like customer experience, marketing, sales enablement and service. So I've got a real interest in developing services, both from a central function, but also from a channels perspective. Next slide, please. Again, another bit of background, I guess. Domino isn't new to service. In fact, it's our heritage. Supplying into manufacturers, you know, we have networks of 1,000+ engineers and help desks around the world. And indeed, our business has built on the back of strong technical support, spares and consumables. And indeed, a pretty solid reputation for technical service, both from our brand and also from some of the NPS feedback we get. We typically get very good feedback from customers and around our technical capability. So it's a good base to build on in terms of capability, but also from a corporate point of view. And of course, developing services and advanced services, there's an external view, of course, for customers, but very much from an internal view. How do you get mind share and sponsorship within any business? It's recognized within Domino that our asset is our install base. We've got 250,000 assets out there, or coders out there around the world. So we recognize it's both an opportunity to build value around our install base, both for our customers and for Domino. And I've said already, we're very much seeking to build capability to offer outcome-based services. And we've got different services that sit at different levels, at base and intermediate and advanced. We offer and have done for some time risk-based contracts. We offer rental options and various packages around services, and I'll bring some of that out. So next slide, please. But probably a good place to start is around what our customers are telling us. Now, I would just say this is not exhaustive in any voice of customer, but we did fairly recently, working with the Aston Group, carry out some voice of customer around services within some of our food and beverage customers. And I had a look through and pulled out just a few examples of comments that we got back from customers that I thought were probably relevant for this conversation. And you can see them here on the screen. So one customer talked pretty openly about the number of SKUs, the number of variants, and the impact on that on production runs and changeovers being really, really important. Another talked about the need to reduce operator intervention when using equipment. Labor shortages were called out by a US company, but of course you could apply that to anywhere, particularly the UK. Also latest technology, and with the trends within packaging, the need for our customers to have latest technology to handle different substrates and different variants came to the fore. And also particularly relevant for our world was the impact and cost of poor codes and unreadable code. So again, if you just move the slide on. And just bring out the animation if you could. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Just build up the slide would be great. So, sorry, just back. Well done. Thank you. So really, they are examples of customers, but they're typical of some of the trends that we're seeing. And indeed, they play a little bit into some of the mega trends that Sonal highlighted in the first presentation. So certainly, no doubt, there's a mega trend there around consumer choice. We all understand it as consumers. And of course, for our customers and for manufacturers, that has significant implications. Product runs, variants, and therefore, that's driving a need for more efficiency around changeovers, but also late-stage customization in order to eliminate waste. And of course, waste has a significant impact on sustainability. Operator intervention, well, again, that's a probably pretty obvious statement around the trends and the need to avoid operator intervention and move to a much more digital, connected world, both in the cloud and as part of an IoT offering. Coding errors is pretty relevant for us. In fact, that's a key driver for a lot of our customers. And a stat for you on average, this is all of us, if we're using a typical QWERTY keyboard, will make one mistake every 300 characters. And therefore, if you think of a typical manufacturing food processing with 4 production lines, that's the potential for 175 coding errors per year. So the potential coding errors is significant for our customers. If you just want to move the slide on. Sorry, just go back there, just go back, sorry, and back a slide, because I think there was yeah, keep going back, sorry. This is the challenges of trying to do a tag team. Back again, sorry, keep going, if you can. I just want to thank you, yeah, great. Sorry, the challenges of building up animation as well. Coding errors in our world is a significant risk. I'm not going to read through the slide here, but of course, in our world, misaligned codes, missing codes, illegible codes have a significant cost to our customers, both in terms of waste, product recall, but of course, as you can see in the bottom right, more significantly, the brand damage around having poor codes and product recalls. And you can see there some attitudes towards consumers when faced with a product recall. And this is significant in terms of brand reputation. So customers moving away temporarily, or worse still, avoiding brands due to product recall. So of course, getting this right is pretty significant. So move on, please, the slide. Thank you. And then next animation. Yeah, so again, talking about the need for latest technology, again, no real surprise that we're seeing in our world this access over ownership, so the Uber model that we're seeing. And we're certainly seeing, particularly within our North American and our European businesses, a drive for more relaxed rental options versus purchase. And indeed, we're seeing that shift in Asia as well. And then the final trend around workforce shortages. Again, we only need to look at the news in the UK at the moment to understand this is a significant challenge within food and beverage manufacturing. Of course, that's driving a greater need for automation, and that's driving a greater need for coding automation. So if you just move on the slide. Again, not got time to comment on this, but I think the point I draw out from here is when we think about services, we're really trying not just to address the things that are above the line, but we're really seeking to try and address some of the hidden costs that our customers encounter below the line. And I won't read all of those out, but really think about that. They are some of the challenges we're trying to overcome in developing services. So just move on the slide, thank you. So with that in mind, and with some of those customer challenges in mind, let me just lay out for you coding as a service. And as I said at the very outset, we are building capability around offering coding as a service. And very much as you'll see in these slides coming up, what we're learning in this, and I'm sure it's obvious to a number of people, is that we have to build up a number of enablers that all need to come together to make this a reality. So again, if you could just bring out the animation on this slide, just bring all the animation out, that would be helpful. Thank you. So again, in a very headline level, coding as a service looks like this. So step one in the middle, rather than an operator putting a code in, we would deploy code deployment software. So automation would deploy a code onto the coder. Step two, as you see there, the Domino coder will print the code. Step three, an important part of the feedback loop, is we would deploy vision to validate that that's the right code and it's a good code. Then the cloud, the Domino cloud, from an IoT offering, we would have the capability, and we have the capability to monitor both at Domino and at the customer, the performance. And then ultimately, step five, the customer pays for a validated good code. So all of that comes together to offer coding as a service. So again, move the slide on. So I just want to pick out each of those elements and where we are in trying to figure that out, and how these enablers start to come together to enable coding as a service. So Domino automation, well, we're building capability. Again, this whole point about avoiding coding error, avoiding human intervention. So coding automation, we would deploy and do deploy in order to set up codes automatically dramatically. But of course, Domino doesn't exist in isolation. With a manufacturing facility, we are very much part of an ecosystem. So we have to interface with ERP, MES systems, but also from an IoT language point of view, we have to build common capability, common language, so things like Ethernet IP. So we have this capability. We're really seeking to build this out across all of our coding technologies, but also importantly, make sure that we've got consistency around protocol. So Domino automation is a key piece. And again, avoiding human error and avoiding customer waste by wrong codes on wrong products. Next slide, please. Domino printer. Well, of course, this is our core. This is really where we started as a coding provider in the technology. But it's probably worth bearing in mind, of course, that the driver for Domino coding, and we code on literally thousands of different substrates in lots of different industry sectors, but very much an evolution in data and information and variable information, which is our world that packs need to contain, is driving a need for digitization and digital technology. Now, Domino has a digital coding technology that we're seeking to deploy in these sorts of applications. And you can see very simply on the slide, the evolution of what we're seeing. And again, more information on packs is driving this need. So bottom left, you'll see at a very basic level, human readable code. Well, of course, that's still relevant today. A la look round a supermarket for best before days. But increasingly, we're seeing a need for variable coding, 2D data matrix, QR codes. So the ability to scan a code and look at ingredients packs or competitions, etc., is driving that online coding. And then we move to variable data with barcodes. And the example I've pulled out here is serialization within the life sciences. So again, the ability to code a 2D matrix, a unique code on a unique pack that allows you to be aggregated up, to link up to a database. And of course, at point of dispense, this is scanned to ensure you've got the right medicine in the right place for the customer. Now, the implications of that are significant in healthcare, but we're very much seeing that trend moving into food and beverage. So again, that's driving a need for batch of one and variable data in codes. And then, of course, as we move to the right-hand side, that trend for more information on packs. So in nutrition, other information, allergies that now needs to be unpacked, all the way up to the right-hand side that starts to get to late point identification, personalization. So the Tim Baines beer, for example, where customers can customize products by late-stage customization. So again, the Domino coder is a key piece of this, but we're seeing an increasing trend to more digital coding to keep up with the demands for coding. Next slide, please. Vision is a key enabler. It very much closes the loop for coding as a service. We actually went out and acquired a vision system company back in 2019, recognizing that this was a gap in our capability. So the vision system we've now launched, that's a product that's available, and we're beginning to bundle that capability with the products that we code. And of course, the obvious benefits as such, we can identify it's the right code on the right product. And of course, if the code isn't right, the product and line product can get rejected, codes can get stopped. So in other words, we're eliminating any waste going out of the factory, but ensuring that code is right on the product. So having vision for us is a key enabler. Next slide, please. Domino Cloud, well, we have a cloud capability. We partner with Servitly in this space. And of course, we're very much learning here that data is key. I think that was a comment that's been made already in this session. So we're building out, we have Domino Cloud capability. We're building that out on our technology at the moment. So there's a rollout in terms of broadening. We've got about 4,000 assets on the Domino Cloud at the moment, but that's a drop in the ocean compared to where we want to get to. But we're also learning that it's the augmentation of that data, it's dashboard design, it's putting that data in the hands of our customers that most valuable. But of course, again, Domino doesn't exist in isolation. We're part of an ecosystem, and the reality is customers don't want to look at lots of different dashboards. So the need to build APIs is a key enabler for us, and again, some work that we're doing at the moment. Next slide, please. Just a few examples. I would say that the cloud capability, the learning around this is iterative. In other words, the design of dashboards by nature has to be quite iterative. You've got to go out, it's an agile development, you've got to go out and show some customers some data, and is it valuable, is it not valuable? And then we're tweaking and refining our dashboards as we go. But a few examples from customers where, of course, the Domino Cloud is being used to eliminate line stops, used to improve line OEE, particularly on the right-hand side there in night shifts where perhaps operator skill levels are not as high. And of course, the ability to monitor remotely is significant for our customers. So again, in the top right, purchasing decisions made based on the fact that Domino will monitor equipment in terms of eliminating risk. Next slide, please. Remote support. Well, the Domino Cloud, in our view, is one element of remote support. And it's fair to say COVID obviously has accelerated the need for us to support our customers remotely. At the height, of course, of the COVID pandemic, we were unable to send engineers, and customers were not allowing access to sites for obvious reasons. So we took it as an opportunity. We're already exploring augmented reality, but we took that as an opportunity to accelerate our remote support around augmented reality. So that's a tool we're driving really hard against a remote support metric, and fundamentally we believe in a greater shift towards helping customers remotely through our augmented capability. But again, having that remote support through both the Domino Cloud and augmented reality tools are absolutely critical for coding as a service. Next slide. Comment was made on the last presentation, but data analytics and the skills around data analytics become absolutely critical. And I have to say, it isn't our heritage. We're used to handling data, we're used to handling different fault codes, but the skills around data analytics, the skills around predictive analytics, and condition and monitoring is an area that we believe that we are going to have to partner in. And indeed, we're exploring some partnerships at the moment where we believe this will help us in accelerating this area. But absolutely, that's a key enabler for being predictive in responding rather than reacting to failures in the field. So data analytics, key area for us. We're making some progress, but we believe we've got to partner in that space. Next slide. Of course, the other element, and I think this is where another challenge comes in for us around servitization at scope and at scale. We can run pilots, and indeed we have run pilots around this model. We've run pilots in local channels in terms of offering outcome-based services and intermediate services. But we absolutely recognize that if we're going to offer this at scale and at scope, then the business systems have to support us. Our business systems historically are built on a traditional model of selling products, not services. And therefore, capability that we're developing at the moment around things like subscription billing become absolutely critical. That's a project that we've got in play at the moment. But of course, as part of a digital transformation, we're now in a cycle where our ERP upgrade program has started. Well, of course, that program has to support and be an enabler at the front end of our customer interactions for services. And of course, we've got an opportunity now to build in that capability as we move through that digital transformation. And then move the slide on, please. And then finally, as an enabler, but not to be underestimated, of course, is how do we launch, how do we market, how do we sell services? And we have programs around sales enablement that are global, but of course, shifting the emphasis, so developing our salespeople to selling services, aligning our reward structures. We use things like commission pillars to guide our sales teams and our commission schemes around selling services is a key area here. And of course, I touched on it at the beginning, but half of the world for Domino is covered through distribution. So in time, and I think we're taking the view here that we ought to focus first on our direct businesses and figure this stuff out. But at some point, we know that this has significant implications. We have a traditional model, as a lot of companies do with our distributors. It's a sell a product at list price less a discount. But actually, really what we're talking here is about enabling our distributors to sell services. So it's going to need a different shift. It's going to need a different business model that we need to figure out in time. Next slide, please. And in fact, just build up the animation on this last one, if you could. So finally, and bringing this together, our customers within food and beverage manufacturing are having to respond to a number of challenges. And again, this is not exhaustive, but the need for customization, late point identification, customization, product safety challenges, brand reputation around product recalls, workforce capabilities, skill shortages, and that speed of technology within a packaging space and innovation. Building on our heritage, we are seeking to develop our services to support them in addressing these challenges. And of course, those individual offerings as in themselves can help support our customers in some of those challenges. But we fundamentally believe that it's the augmentation, it's the bringing together of all of those capabilities that if we can bundle them and package them, really can create a very compelling offering. So as you've probably gathered, I'm certainly not presenting a position that we've made it by any stretch, but we're certainly progressing, we're certainly learning, but we've also got a long way to go. So Tim, I think that was all from me in terms of the slides. Hopefully that was useful.
Well, it was excellent, thank you. And I might be mistaken, but I thought I heard you say a response to COVID was a Tim Baines beer. Is that correct?
Tim, it's whatever gets you through.
We've got time for just one question from the floor. If there's any questions from the floor. Okay.
Thanks, Will. I'm Paul Jackson from UV Light Technology, and I was just wondering, how was coding as a service first received by your sales team? And you touched on it at the end, but did you need to make big changes, I guess, to your recruitment strategy? And you mentioned a little bit of training, and I'm also wondering what type of incentives you were giving them.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you. Good question. I would say overall it's been received pretty well because the conversation has moved on. Our salespeople understand that the conversation is no longer just about a coder on a line. It's about creating more value around that code. And of course, advanced services and coding as a service is an opportunity to create that value and move the conversation on. So overall, I mean, I'm talking in general terms here. There are certain salespeople that don't quite get it, but generally, it's not a hard sell for our salespeople, providing you do two things. One is that you train them, and that's both how to sell the services. So part of our sales enablement is training salespeople around solutions and services selling, which of course is very different to product selling. It's very much about understanding the value, the problems. So again, building that. And of course, the other element to sales, and I speak as an ex-salesperson myself, is ensuring that you align the rewards. So if you can do those things effectively, then it's a positive step forward. So as I mentioned, we have commission schemes. Now, we don't seek, and I don't seek at the centre to have uniform commission schemes across the world. If you know anything about sales commission schemes, you know that's a whole hell of a lot of pain. But what we do is try and provide guidance around evolving our commission schemes. So we're evolving, I would say, our commission schemes to ensure that the rewards around selling services are recognised. But listen, we've got a way to go still with our salespeople, but they get the fact that this is an opportunity to move the conversation on and to create value and move up the value chain within our customers.
Well, Will, thank you very much. And Will, thanks again. And we will draw the question to conclusion here, but thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you in Cambridge just after Christmas. So thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Yes, we'll. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I was yes. So we're going to carry on the theme of looking at services, advanced services, in helping with the response to some of the food sustainability challenges. I'm going to invite Tim Foreman from Omron to come and tell us about the work inside the Omron organization. Tim, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. So we can both hear and see you. So please tell us about the work at Omron.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in and listening to my story. So my name is Tim Foreman. I'm representing Omron today. The title of my presentation may look a little bit strange today, machines make people better, but I do remember that in the introduction of this afternoon's program, there was also a reference made to that people need to get skills. And I'm a firm believer that in the near future, machines are going to help to do that. I'm also going to try to move the presentation forward myself. Yeah, it's working. So a little bit of the introduction, although I think the presentation just before me from Will, because we are basically serving similar markets, the story is going to be quite similar, so I can be short on that part. Anyway, Omron is a Japanese company that has a mission to improve the lives of people around the world. And we believe that if we continue to provide innovation for the social needs, and then in that way we will manage to have a sustainable future. Part of our focus markets is also the food industry, just like Domino's, but we also have some other markets that we are aiming at. So what we see happening is, of course, what has been presented before today. So we see also a shortage of skilled labor. That's why the title of my presentation is about increasing skills. But also we see a lot of new technology coming into play. And of course, Omron being a technology provider, this is the part of where we want to provide solutions to the big challenges that are ahead of us, with climate change, environmental damages as one of them. So I think Will probably agree with me that the consumers are changing, and the behavior of consumers, for instance, if I look at my own children, they are behaving differently than I looked at consuming a couple of years ago. So we see that people are carefully selecting. They are looking more carefully at what they want to eat and what kind of food they want to get served. They even are looking at food that is really made for them. So through the internet, they select a certain mix of a certain product that's really customized for them particularly. And of course, they want to have it today, if not latest tomorrow. So that's also the big trend that we see. So how does Omron look at addressing these trends? Well, of course, I already mentioned to you that we are a technology company, so we are looking at it from a technology angle. So we are looking at these topics that we hear from our customers. So of course, at the top, you see that everybody would like to increase their efficiency. And looking at the uptime of machines, preventing quality problems, that's a key item on everybody's radar. But at the same time, they want to have maximum flexibility. So that's, of course, two things that are already fighting with each other. Maximum flexibility, produce to order for customers that are selecting today and want to have it in a couple of hours, ideally. In such a food packaging environment, safety is of course also key. So for operators walking by, safety is a key element. And like I mentioned, quality is of course, brand reputation was mentioned a couple of times. It's a key element in our target markets. Connectivity was also mentioned, but with connectivity also, of course, comes the possibility to have the wide connection to cloud solutions, etc. And then as a key topic, security kicks in. So those are all the elements that we need to come up with answers if we are to help our customers deal with these new demands. And for this, from Omron point of view, we recently introduced the concept of R&D as a service. I'm responsible for Omron R&D in Europe, and a couple of years ago, I started to think about this concept. How can we not just sell products with some latest technology to our customers, but why not team up with them and to develop it together as a service? So for that, I introduced the concept of front R&D. So back R&D is the traditional way of dealing with roadmaps and developing new technology and new products. But front R&D is something that's new. And like I mentioned, a lot of these technologies are pretty complex, and even a big company like Omron, we cannot do everything ourselves anymore. So certainly a lot of our customers are not able to do everything by themselves. So why not team up in an open, collaborative way, introduce the latest technology as innovation? And not just by bringing the salesperson in contact with the purchasing department of the customer. No, let's try to connect the R&Ds from both sides together. And of course, this is also a way to strengthen the relationship between the two companies. But if we are doing this, why not go one step further and introduce this whole idea of changing R&D from technology and product development? Why not also include new services or advanced services development in the R&D portfolio? And this picture you've also already seen on the slides from the previous presenter. So, of course, in the bottom, we are providing products for many, many years, and this is our bread and butter. And of course, we have some basic services on top of that, but where we really want to enter now is how can we help our customers with servicing in such a way that we can help them guarantee some output, some capability to produce at a certain speed or a certain rate with a certain quality. And in that sense, we are trying to find new ways, new advanced services. So of course, like I mentioned, we have a long history within providing products, and we also have a history of providing services. So of course, we do technical support. If customers come to us with a question like, we have a Domino printer and we have an Omron controller, how can we connect them together? We are going to help that customer get it connected. And we have logistics services. We have, of course, education services. All these things are in place. And a little bit more advanced, we also help people start up their machines, design machines, maintain machines. We help them identify safety risks and help them to mitigate them. We help them to use robots in their factories. So already quite some services we have in place. But now we want to go to that extra step and introduce new advanced services. So one of the things that we are talking about now is insight as a service. So we've heard cooling, we've heard coding, now it's insight as a service. So what am I talking about if I'm talking about insight as a service? So in the bottom picture, you can see a typical packaging machine. So you can imagine at the front, cookies are coming in, they need to be packaged. There's of course the quality control, there is the coding, for instance, with the Domino printer is happening. And finally, there's a secondary or even tertiary packaging in such a line. So this line is full of interesting products and interesting technology. And which persons know most about the products that are in this line, controlling this line, what you can do with it and how you can stretch those products to provide you with insight. Of course, it's the engineers who develop these products that know best. But who knows best about food production? The end user, the packaging company that is packaging these cookies, they of course know very, very well what it is to be at the line and produce cookies day in, day out. And they know very, very well what are the challenges they have ahead of them. And who knows best to get value out of data? And also that was referred to already this afternoon. For this, we have, let's say, the latest science called data science, and the data science engineers. And those are the ones that can do magic with the data provided. But not on their own. You need to bring these three people together, the people that do understand the technology that's in those machines, and the ones that are really domain experts in using these lines, in using these machines. If you bring them together, the real magic can happen and real insights can be provided. So, I'm trying to advance the slide. Connection lost, unfortunately. Come on, please attempt to reconnect. Maybe you can advance my slide for me. So, what are we talking about when we talk about insight as a service? It's restored. So, like I mentioned, we would like to improve the machine uptime, reduce quality issue outflow, but also we come to talk to customers more and more that are thinking about not selling machines, but also want to provide their machines as a service, like a packaging as a service or lifting as a service. You see more and more of our customers are thinking about changing their business model, quickly realizing that if they are going to do that, they need to really understand deeply about their own equipment and how it's actually being used in the field. So not only for providing insight at the packaging company, the food packaging company, but also the machine builders that are looking to change their business model. This is going to be crucially important. So another thing that we as Omron try to focus is to provide this insight and this capability on the shop floor. So we all know that connecting your factory to clouds has a risk with it, and simply by putting all this logic on the shop floor, we avoid that discussion and avoid that risk. So keeping the full control in your own factory. And this service is providing the machine builder or the food packaging company to go together with us through a journey and to experience how to use data and to become to go from a binary decision to meaningful statistics, and close the gap between the traditional mechanical, electrical, and software engineering, and now this new science called data science. So over the last couple of years that we were experimenting with these services, we have learned that you cannot jump in the middle of a project and expect everybody to understand and understand each other. So to help ourselves and our customers in this journey, we have decided to present a roadmap to get insight. So step number one that we provide is actually getting to know each other as human beings, but also getting to know the data that's available, and by that checking the maturity of our customer in terms of data availability and what kind of data they have and what kind of data they have stored. This is a service that we can do in a couple of days. So actually to get to know each other is of course the thing around it. We get the data, we will look at the data, we will analyze and assess the situation and quickly give a our point of view of what we see and what we think might be low-hanging fruit or possible next steps. Then the next step that we do is what we call a machine sanity check. So assuming there's a machine and that there's somebody using that machine, for instance, to pack lettuce or to pack cookies, we can connect to that machine and to have a look at how that machine is running. Obviously, related to such a activity, there should be a question from the customer. So is he talking about quality? Maybe sometimes the sealing is not perfectly done. Or is it about the uptime of the machine? Maybe sometimes suddenly the machine is in standstill and they don't know why. So what is the question they want to focus on? Because we also realized that in such a journey, you have to make small steps and focus on the thing and keep the focus on those things. If that is done, then the next step can be taken, and that's about prediction. So prediction of downtime, prediction of quality, those kind of predictions can only be done after you've done step number 1 and step number 2. We even have a fourth step into this roadmap. That's called partnering, where you can imagine we can team up together and design a complete new machine with great mechanics, great electronics, great software, but also a great data design. So I also brought a couple of examples. The first example that I bring is a brownfield application. One of our customers, they had a machine, and I represented with a picture. But in this machine, they were producing products. And I think every 3 seconds, a product came out of this production line, and they asked us, "Can you please support us to discover why there are these so-called micro stoppages?" So not stoppages of 3 hours that are completely analyzed until they find that the pump is broken, or a motor is broken, or a bearings is broken. No, the couple of minutes stoppages, where before they look at it, suddenly the machine restarts and continues, and they have actually no clue why it happened. But I think research shows that micro stoppages is one of the biggest amount of downtime in machines, because in itself they are not very long, but they happen quite frequently. So it's a long tail, and the amount of minutes really adds up if you look, for instance, at production loss in a month. So what we did, we took this brownfield machine and we connected our industrial oscilloscope to this line. So literally we pulled in probes and wires and connected it to a running machine, because it's a 24/7 running machine. They didn't want us to stop the machine at all. So we tapped it into this machine and started to log data. And one of the things that data scientists are also very good at is to create pictures. So we created pictures that we showed to the domain experts in this factory. And we said, okay, does this look right to you? Because we think maybe something strange is happening. And by this exercise, they found out that there was some programming mistake in the logic of the machine. They also discovered that there was some misalignment of sensors in their machine. They even found a wire that at the end of the wire, there was nothing. It was just a connector without a sensor. So after fixing After fixing this, they reduced the unforeseen micro stoppages with almost 4.5 hours of downtime each month, which led them to recruit an engineer to accelerate these kind of activities in the factory. The second example is one step further. So the question here was, we are producing goods, and they need to go to the end user. The end user is going to put them into another package, and it's really important that the quality is perfectly fine, and we're producing roughly 1 product per second. So it's very tough to do full inspection, although they tried with microscope to check if the products were completely closed or not, with 24/7 human quality inspection. So for this, we connected our equipment, and we started to take 300 measurements for every punch that was done to close a product. And with this very detailed information, we could characterize the right profile for closing and the odd profile for closing. And by this, we introduced 100% quality control to make sure that the lid is properly closed and that you can much stronger have the food safety guaranteed. Also, we introduced a cockpit for the quality department, and actually they started to show this quality cockpit even to their customers. So please come over to our factory and have a look at how we have total control and visibility and transparency for you at the quality of our products. Touch the wrong device. Of course, this is a way to avoid waste, because what they usually did if they discovered a not perfectly sealed product, they would quarantine the production of a whole day and potentially throw it away just to prevent any brand damage or complaints from their customers. So with this, food waste was eliminated a lot. And that's my 20 minutes presentation, and I end with a quote from the founder of the company, who said, "To the machine, the work of machines, and to man, the thrill of further creation." And I wish you a lot of fun creating. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions from the room for Tim? Tim, we have a question for you.
Yeah.
And good afternoon, Tim. It's Ian Machin from the Advanced Services Group. Thank you for your presentation. My question, Tim, is you spoke about developing the relationship with your customer and then going on to the data and the machine sanity. How do you see that relationship changing as you get that information and share it with them? What's the reactions do you get, and how does the relationship with the customer change as you go through that process?
Well, it's very interesting, actually, because traditionally, when you are not in the service business, you are perceived as a company that wants to sell a product and then go to another customer. But as soon as you start to talk about services and how you can help them with their core challenges, such as uptime of a machine or quality of the products they produce, the discussion completely changes, and the relationship also changes with that. And in that respect, rather than selling a lot of Omron equipment, we are now looking at whether it's not possible that this Omron equipment stays our ownership, but we sell a service that is guaranteeing that they will not have any products leaving their factory floor with a quality issue, and trying to link our service monetization with that aspect of delivering value, rather than trying to sell the traditional hardware to them.
Thank you, Tim. Any last questions from the room? We have one.
Tim, very interesting presentation, but there couldn't be any parallels with the presentation earlier from Domino. I'm just thinking that you both got parent companies in Japan. Are there any kind of supporting mechanisms coming through from the parent companies, or any barriers that you see?
I think Will from Domino also mentioned that to be able to do a service like this, you need to have direct relationship with your customer. The European market for Omron, we have much more direct contacts with our customers than in other parts of the world. And from that point of view, we are really frontiering these advanced services in Europe. My colleagues in Japan are really looking over my shoulder to see how we are doing it. And as mentioned also before, it's not just trying to figure out how to do services and how to do the financial stuff, but it's also how to make sure that all the traditional IT systems that are in the company that are focused at financial transactions to give a box and then finished, all that stuff need to be frontiered as well. But I'm getting great support to move ahead with that.
Tim, can I just come back to you on that one? So they're talking about the systems, and can I be clear? Are you talking about the ERP type systems inside the organisation and
Sure.
making sure that those are supportive of the services strategy that you have? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to know how difficult it is to change a company from being good at selling products into selling licenses or services.
Gotcha. Okay. Tim, any more questions from the room, folks? Okay, I think what I'll do is I will say, Tim, thank you very much again for your presentation. Very helpful. Very insightful. We're going to move from the Netherlands now over to Italy. I'm going to invite Stefano from Servitly to give us a short presentation about some of those technology systems that are supporting services. Stefano, can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can both hear and see you, so please take it away.
Great. So thank you very much for having me. I'm Stefano. I'm the co-founder of Servitly. And Servitly is a company working in the enterprise software space. And we are addressing the challenges that equipment manufacturers face when they want to exploit the data coming from their connected products to enhance or empower or to enable services. So our mission can be summarized in these 3 points. First of all, helping equipment manufacturer deliver connected services. So we mean by connected services any service that is enabled by the fact that the product is connected. So the schema here is delivering a product that is connected to a central system and exploit IoT to deliver an enhanced service. So a connected service could be a basic service or an intermediate service or an advanced services, doesn't matter. The difference is having data and using this data to offer a better service rather than a non-connected service. The second point is helping customer in selling outcomes. This sounds trivial, especially in this conference, but we are meeting with many equipment manufacturers that are struggling, even if they have connected product, they are struggling in figuring out how to exploit this data to deliver value to their customer. And for us, the vision is selling outcomes. And so we are building our software in a way that is designed to help manufacturers selling outcomes. And we will see later a few examples. And the third point of our mission is help equipment manufacturer create great customer experiences. So we believe that digital technologies could help a lot, and in particular in the domain of customer experience. This could be tricky because in the service space, service is sometimes not visible. So the difference between a product and a service are many, of course, but one big difference is that a product is visible and a service sometimes is not visible. So a digital customer experience is a great tool to help equipment manufacturer, first of all, create a connection with their end customers, and second, show the value of a service, show what is the outcome that I guarantee with my capabilities, even if you don't see me every time coming to your premises. So we are doing this by creating a new kind of enterprise software. So we are invented this acronym DPSS, that stands for Digital Product Service System. We really believe that we are entering in a new era, that equipment manufacturers are entering in a new era, and their current business systems, ERP systems, CRM system, are not covering this new space of connected services. So the equipment manufacturers are exploiting IoT technologies. So we see these technologies in blue here in this diagram. IoT technologies are used to collect data or establish a two-way communication with the product. So we want to go further than that. So we, with our enterprise software, we start from the assumption that the product is connected. So we don't sell any specific IoT technologies. So we are starting from the IoT technologies to move to the enterprise software. So the first step of this digital product service system is to transform data into something useful. So we are doing this with we call this intelligence engine. That means putting in a system all the intelligence. And we heard before some cases where the core value of a service is the intelligence, is the capability of analyzing data, understand what is the hidden information behind data. So we define a space where the equipment manufacturer can define its own intelligence system and transform data into useful information, advice. So I tell someone do something, and actions. And then we have an intelligence distribution system. So once we have an information, a piece of information, a piece of advice, it is important that this advice can be delivered to the right person at the right time. So in our system, we are offering two kinds of user interface. So the user interface is what creates the customer experience. So on the top right, we can see the customer experience portal. So this is a very, very important way to communicate with the customer, to deliver the customer advice, information coming from the intelligence system, and to keep a connection. This could be delivered through a web portal or a mobile app, or also an API system that the customer can exploit to integrate the system into its own processes. On the right and on the bottom, we see the control room. So every equipment manufacturer has a chain, has a channel. So the channel is composed by distributor, resellers, technical assistance center, and they also must be player in this game. So we are offering user interfaces and workflow also for distributing this intelligence to any third party involved in the delivery of the product service system. And the most important part of our system is the left side, where we gave the equipment manufacturer the capability to put together engineering, data science, and service design capability to really have the power of controlling the system and defining how this system should behave, should transform data, and should deliver value to the end user and the channel. So with our software, we try to change the way that is typically the path that is typically followed by an equipment manufacturer dealing with a connected product. So we see on the top, the typical pattern is, we see so many patterns like this. The research and development team of the equipment manufacturer is working on IoT. They are trying to collect data from their product. Okay, they start collecting data, they start doing analytics, and then they wonder, okay, now what we can do. And this could be a very tough question if you don't know what is the purpose, what is the final outcome you want to reach. So with a system like a DPSS system, you can really change this path from the opposite, from the ground up. So you start wondering, okay, what are the outcomes I want to help my customers reach? How digital can help in how can digital technologies help me and my customer reach these outcomes? How can I exploit a digital product service system to do this? And then what data I need in order to deliver this value? And then I come finally to find out what are the useful technologies and sensors that I need to install in the product to reach the outcomes. So the truth is very, very often in the middle, but it's useful to know that we can work in another way. So now we are talking about food production, so I will make some example in the food production and in food equipment. But as you may understand, these concepts are quite generic in many, many different industries. So let's start with the part that starts with outcomes. So the first question we ask ourselves is, what do customers want? So in the food equipment, our customers are professional kitchens, restaurants, and food retailers that are using food equipment in order to cook food and sell food to their customers. So we identified 5 areas where digital can help, 5 areas where digital technologies can help customers reaching an outcome. And these areas are, we then drill down into these areas, and we will find out how digital can help customers reaching an outcome in each of these areas. So areas are quality, specifically the quality of the food that is being cooked or transformed. Performance, that means how much the food production costs or how many pieces per hour I can produce. Equipment health, that means keep the equipment running as long as possible. Process, so help the customer reducing the wasted times or increasing the speed of the line. And then finance, so help the customer facing some finance challenges that he may have. So when building Servitly, we are doing this exercise and we are helping our customer, equipment manufacturer, understanding for each of these areas how digital can help and how IoT data coming for their product can help the customer reaching this outcome. So let's start from quality. How can an equipment help the customer increase the quality of the food? So we start from the sensor part. So the raw data here is condition about the condition of the equipment that are impacting the quality of the production. So like temperatures, the duration of cooking. So if you are talking about an oven, so it is important that the recipes last exactly what it is established, then doesn't anyone stop the cooking process before the recipe has ended, a door that has been opened before the time, or some chemical condition, like for example, the composition of the water. I'm thinking about coffee machine, where an important part of the quality of the coffee is due to the quality of the water that is being used by the machine. And environmental condition, like external temperature, external humidity. So sensing capabilities in this area could be exploited to help a customer monitoring the quality, and also exploiting an intelligence engine, sending to the customer advice and suggestion about how to improve the quality of the cooking and the food produced by the machine. And on the right, we try also to, for sake of transparency, we try to suggest to our customer to create synthetic index. So I like very much what Will said before. So customers don't want to lose time looking into dashboard. They want KPIs, okay? They want to, in a few seconds, understand, okay, is the quality good? Is the performance good? Is the health okay? So we really push our customer to work in creating high-level index. In this case, this could be a quality index. Then let's talk about performance. Performance means helping customer cutting cost of production or increasing the productivity of the machine. Also, we start from the data that can be used in order to help customer improving performances. Data is about machine status, the overall equipment effectiveness, so the capability of tracking idle time, standby time, running time, and showing the customers this data in a useful way to let him understand if some part of the process can be enhanced or there is some space of improvement in the timing of the process. Also, consumption is a great area where digital technologies could help. And here I'm talking about mainly energy consumption. So in the food equipment industry, energy consumption, if we think about oven, is one of the main costs, but also in the refrigeration, we heard also before the session before me. So keeping track of energy consumption and advise and suggest the customer what to do in order to improve energy efficiency and how to cut energy consumption while keeping high the quality and the productivity is an area where a service could help a lot. So starting from this raw data about OEE, productivity and consumption, we can, through the intelligence engine, help the customer with advice and reporting. And here you see a double part that could be enabled by the digital product service system. This possibility are related to who is responsible for doing concretely an action. So there are two ways we see mainly, and Servitly support both ways. So the intelligence system can send a message, an advice, a piece of information right to the customer. So in this case, the customer will be responsible for doing this. For example, the system understands that the oven is on and the temperature is okay, but the cooking has not yet been started. So there is a waste of energy here. So we can cut this wasted energy. So we can send this suggestion to the manager of the food retailer to say, okay, there is a wasted time, a wasted energy here. You need to take action. This is a digital service, but the system could also behave driving this information to a performance advisory team that could be inside the manufacturing company or could be also inside the third party that is helping the equipment manufacturer in delivering physical activities over the machine. So this piece of information can be delivered to a performance advisory team so that the performance advisory team could advise the customer with traditional channel like a call or a meeting where the performance advisory team can concretely help the customer in reaching the performance outcome you want. So this is a double option that maybe at the beginning could not be defined. So it is very, very helpful to have a system that allows the equipment manufacturer to start in one way and then change in another way. The important here is to share this information. So even if the performance is in charge of the manufacturing company, so even if the manufacturing company is in charge of ensuring the performance of the machine, it is very important also to share information about the performance also to the customer in order to make the process the most transparent as possible. Again, like quality, here we are suggesting our customer in building such a performance index, so a number that can quickly identify how the machine is performing. Then we can move to the next area, that is health. That is the purpose of this area is to keep the life of the machine, of the piece of equipment, as long as possible. So this is typically the first area where an equipment manufacturer focuses. That means from the most basic level to keep track of any alarms, occurring on the machine, but also taking care about timings, how much an operation is lasting, if there is something wrong in the timings, or there is something wrong in any other physical measurement. And also an area of, in the food production space in particular, an area that can affect the equipment health is cleaning. So we are helping equipment manufacturer in focus on this area because in many cases, an equipment fault or bad health condition is due to bad cleaning process. So again, we are using IoT technologies for giving customer advice or of how the customer can keep the machine health at the highest level possible. And again, in this case, data is transformed into intelligence that can be delivered to the end user or to the technical assistance team. So like performance, also in this case, the system can help directly the customer to do some maintenance activity, like, for example, an ordinary cleaning. But the same system can also send information to the technical assistance team that is in charge of maintenance activity, that can help this team in organize visits, organize the plan of activities that they have to perform on the installed base and on the fleet that they are maintaining. So again, as you know, the schema is quite simple again and is similar to the previous area. We suggest our customer to express an health index, a very, very synthetic number that can express the health of the system, the health of the machine. So a fourth area of outcome that a digital service and the service can help customer is process. So how can a service help the end customer, so the food producer, the retailer, to improve its processes? So IoT can help a lot also here. First of all, we can help operation by exploiting cloud-based capability like program management, recipes management, or bulk updates. So, for example, we work with food oven manufacturer that sell oven to big chain like McDonald's or supermarket that has hundreds of oven that should be updated in order to keep the recipes aligned with the season, winter and summer. So this could be a great help for the customer. Another area where IoT could help and digital capabilities can help customer is managing consumable and helping customer manage consumable replenishment. So some oven are using special chemical product. So the refill and the replenishment of this chemical product could be a pain for the end customer. But also I think about coffee machine where the consumable is the coffee, and any different kind of beverage as some kind of consumable that could be managed in an efficient way by an automatic system. And a last area where a digital service, a digital product service system could help is the so-called connected kitchen. Connected kitchen means that a piece of equipment doesn't work alone. So an oven or a refrigerator in a professional kitchen must work together with many, many other machines that could be of different equipment manufacturers. So an equipment manufacturer should be able to integrate its machine in an environment where other machines are working. Our vision is that doing this on a cloud-based system is much more efficient and cost-effective rather than doing a physical integration. And we believe that infrastructure technologies and internet technologies will allow to really make an integration that is more cloud-based rather than physical-based. So we are helping our customer in offering connected equipment that could be integrated into a more wide space that is, generally speaking, the connected kitchen through APIs and through a cloud-based approach. And the last point is finance. So until now, I never talk about equipment as a service. From our point of view as a software company, equipment as a service is only, and obviously is not a trivial word, but from a software point of view is quite simple, is managing pricing models. So managing finance from a software point of view means supporting advanced pricing models. So we call advanced pricing model because this could be applied also to traditional services sold on top of products. So many of our customers are selling services, so they are not yet in the as a service vision. They are still selling products and on top of products selling service, but they charge for these services a dynamic price. So we call this advanced pricing model. This means that the price of the service is a function of something that really the customer can see and can use, like hours of use, hours of availability, number of cookings, or number of quality cookings. So we offer a tool where the equipment manufacturer can define its own pricing model and then can use this pricing model to integrate with the ERP system in order to calculate the billing and in order to send reporting and monitoring capabilities to the purchasing department of the end customer. That's all. Thank you very much.
Stefano, thank you. So, do I have any questions from the room, folks? Any question jump out? Okay. Stefano, I think you've got us just before a coffee break, so I'm going to say thank you very much for your presentation and for taking the time today. And we'll say cheerio to Italy for the moment, and we'll return back to Birmingham and we'll have a cup of tea. So thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good coffee.
We're going to take a short coffee break, folks. During the coffee break, we're going to be showing 3 videos from some of the SMEs that we've worked with that have developed services, advanced services. There'll be a video from Coolmill, from Alpha Drive, and from Mechatronics. So please go outside, grab yourself a tea, a coffee, bring it back in, and we'll be returning back in here. We start the program this afternoon. 3:30. So 3:30 we'll be back, and what we're going to do then, we're going to focus on decarbonisation, green and sustainability. So see you all after coffee. Thank you.
Working with the Advanced Services Group, we've seen our annual revenues for service increase 364% since 2015 to 2021. This is mainly in part from our transition from base services to intermediate services through offering service credits, a system where we enable our customers to prepay for service. I think the key tool that we've used through the Advanced Service Group is the blueprint document. It really enabled us to identify our customers' pains and gains, asking the right questions, finding a solution through working through all of the different questions that were in the blueprint document, and ultimately coming out with a revenue stream that benefits both the customer and us. The Advanced Services Group has really taught me to be a good listener. Through listening, you can get to learn about the customer's pains and gains, which can then be translated in a service offering, which normally emerges from those conversations. The benefits that we've seen and the revenue increase of 364% in the last 6 years, just by focusing our efforts into the service sector, has been a phenomenal, dramatic change for our business.
So Alpha Drive Engineering, we design, we build, we maintain and repair, mainly recycling equipment, but industrial plant. I think really our aspirations is to upscale the business and to roll out exactly what we've done for the West Midlands right across the UK to every single police region. The 4 business quadrant model has allowed us to understand each element of the business and how it flows from one into the other, and then finally create a blueprint so we can really articulate what it is that we're trying to get across to our customers. When we realised what we'd got, when we actually seen the whole plan and we've seen the whole map in front of us, to realise just how good a proposition that we've got. The weapons surrender management programme fits into the business because we're fabricators and we're engineers. So the bins are placed in strategic locations, and then the public are obviously free to be able to put weapons or dangerous items into them, where we come along and we remove the items, we catalogue them, then we destroy them, and then they go for recycling. It's been a really good sounding board for many things, to realise that we're doing the right things quite often when we don't think we're doing the right thing. The businesses don't think that they've got the time. Well, the program's allowed us to rearrange when it's becoming convenient and structure the program as per business requirements, really. So there is time.
Coolmill has pioneered a disruptive new milling technology for processing rice. We bring modern, high-performance rice milling to all millers and would-be millers, regardless of size, location, or gender. Our ambition for our business is to grow a global business turning over £100 million in 5 years with recurring income from servitization contracts in the rice industry. I think the tools that have contributed most to our innovation in the business model are probably a better understanding of the value, cost and contract models. I think it can be quite daunting when you come into this program as a SME. It's really quite overwhelming, and the ability for these tools to break it down into bite-sized, manageable chunks is really, really useful. I think if you think that you don't have time to innovate your business model, you need to think again. I would ask the question, are you limiting your growth, and are you extracting your share, your fair share of the value that you're creating? Servitization can deliver both of those. The light bulb moment for me was, I think, when I came on the workshop with you and Tim and realised that we had actually been doing servitization for a long time, just not charging for it. And we were struck with 2 major problems. One was a perceived high capital cost and a high risk. And we see servitization as a means to overcome both of those barriers.